Hey, what's going on, everybody? Appreciate you for tuning in to another episode of Chomping at the Bit podcast. So, in this, got to talk about my Patriots. Season's over. Playoffs are going on, not involved. That's fine. But the season doesn't stop because the Patriots did release Gerard Mayo. They got their man. I know you all heard. They got Mike Vrabel to be the next head coach for the New England Patriots. I believe the 16th in team history. So, let's talk about that. I'm going to give you my thoughts on the hiring and some of the quotes that came out of his introductory press conference. So we'll kind of take the pulse of where the man's thinking, that the next steps for this team are, and whether we like what he said or not. So let's talk about it. See you in a bit. All right. So, like I said, the Patriots have their guy. They got Mike Vrabel, who we know the last time we saw him, it was with the Tennessee Titans a couple of years ago. He was he seemed like he was the leader in the clubhouse the whole time. They ended up getting him. I'm fine with that. I guess to make it clear, I was under the impression and of the thought process that because it was Mayo's first year, because Mayo was learning on the job, because the roster is what it is, I would not have been opposed to giving Gerard Mayo another year because of the large, salary cap numbers that they have, where they have like 100. I've heard everything from like 124 to like 102 million. I don't know what the gap is, but let's go off of 124 million. That's a lot to improve a roster that just wasn't good enough. So I thought, Gerard Mayo was probably worthy of the opportunity with a better roster to prove if he was a good coach or not. Now, ultimately, Robert Kraft made his decision, which once again, it was his decision. I know a lot of people are talking about sham process and all this kind of stuff. But what we have to remember is Mayo was on the verge of leaving a few years ago. I believe he was going to go to like Carolina for their head coaching job or something like that. And uh, I think the overall thought was like Mayo was probably going to be like their top candidate or something like that. And Robert Kraft, knowing that he, loved Gerard Mayo being around, like reworked his deal, and in that deal said he was going to be the next coach of the Patriots, which obviously was a lot of those stories about Belichick not liking that. He and Kraft, we know how that went. And then also seemingly Belichick was gone like a year or two before Kraft was hoping, which would have been another year or two of development for Gerard Mayo to kind of learn a little bit more. Because now with him have been thrust into the position, he went from position coach to head coach without being like a defensive coordinator in the middle. That's tough. That's just a tough jump there. So I think with that, you saw at times this past season where the Patriots did not look good on the field. I think ultimately the Chargers game, it seems like that was probably the end for Mayo when they showed Jonathan Kraft in the box throwing his palms in the air, like, what are we doing here? Not a good look. And they put that all over national TV, so we all saw it. That seemed like the end. So once they made the announcement that Mayo was gone, I think for a lot of us Patriots fans, it was Vrabel, Ben Johnson, or bust, seemingly. Although I would have thrown Flores is another name, but it seemed like it was Vrabel or Ben Johnson. Like that was at the top of everybody's wish list. Now Ben Johnson, because the Lions are still in the playoffs, all he could do was a video interview, which I don't know if we really heard much about it. I think it said like it went well, but that's not really enough to get like any inclination that they're going to be a really good head coach. Then another part of the process that some people have a problem with, the Rooney Rule stuff, where they brought in Leftwich, Pep Hamilton to satisfy the Rooney Rule. Which, yes, a lot of people didn't like that because they're not, as they put it, viable head coaching candidates. Which, yes, they were out of football, but technically, why not? Or could the interviews have just been because those are two offensively inclined guys? Maybe they got some info on how they feel about Drake May, like what they would do to develop Drake May, like what stuff like that. Maybe they just gathered intel from guys who are on the outside just watching football as to their thoughts on Drake May. Like I don't know, I wasn't involved in the process. My biggest issue has been people just blatantly just labeling it a sham process because they got the guy that everybody assumed they were going after. I don't understand why that's a sham process when that's the process that's been in place for several years now, and these teams all operate the same. So whether you interview 5 or 6 people or you interview 20 people just to get to the person you actually wanted, what's the difference? Like, I guess a tangent, which I will say, if you tune into Integrity Sports Network later on tonight, around 8 p.m., I will be on there with my co-host, Jory Sports Stories. I will talk a little bit more about the whole Rooney Rule stuff, but I guess quickly on here, the the rules in place because these teams weren't even giving a lot of these minority guys an opportunity. So now when they get opportunities, but people feel like those opportunities are just given, just to satisfy the rule. Okay, that's the point. That wasn't happening before. Now it happens. So even if it's just getting those interviews just to put that name out there, that maybe Byron Leftwich doesn't get a job this offseason. But let's say Jacksonville, a place he has ties with, what if the interview leads to him getting an interview down there? Or maybe he becomes somebody's offensive coordinator somewhere. Like that's the only thing that I would push back on. Like I said, I'll get into that more over there. So the main reason for this video, let's get into that. As I said at the top, Vrabel had his introductory press conference. He basically sounded like you would expect him to sound like, Mike Vrabel. He seems like a guy that just keeps it real straight with you, doesn't sugarcoat anything. Love that. But just looking at some stuff from the press conference here. Switch that. There we go. All right. Let's blow this up for you. Okay. Get that video out of the way. Blow it up a little bit more. There we go. And look, I'm obviously not going to go through the whole article, but just touch on some of the quotes that were in the article. I feel like that's where I thought Vrabel said all the right things. Which, once again, can you buy really too much into that? Because obviously he's going to say the right things because he just got the job. But they talk about Drake May. How he's going to develop him. Since Vrabel is a defensive guy, Drake May is the prize quarterback. What are you going to do? Vrabel goes, put great people around him. That means your quarterback's coach, the offensive coordinator. That works in with like the offensive line coach, wide receiver coach. So obviously, as a coach, you want to put your best staff out there, which we'll get into a little bit as well. But that's obviously a great answer because if you looked at this past year, Were the greatest people around Drake May? Probably not. Let's see. Then he said like his involvement, because once again, defensive guy, game management, situational awareness. So he's going to be like an overseer. Fine. And also develop him as a leader of the offense. Okay, love that. And they get into some more stuff here. You also saw like plays called, the confidence in everybody within that huddle that it could potentially score a touchdown. Okay, no plays wasted under Mike Vrabel. Okay, love that. He's gonna let Drake May be his own guy, and um, kind of grow into probably more of a leadership role, maybe in a couple of years. Captain, like, yeah, fine. Let's keep going. Let's see, upgrading the line, yeah. Where he said that's going to be done through free agency, the draft as well, because then with player acquisition, there's no one way to do it. Okay, once again, very, very good answer. Because obviously, with all that money in free agency, you would like to see a good chunk of that go towards the offensive line, but also use draft picks, everything like that. For me, put as many people in the competition for those 5 spots along the offensive line as possible and pick the right 5, and let's ride out the season with them and see if they can't be a better group than this past season. So he talks about teams who protect their quarterback. Obviously they are the better teams out there. So yes, talking about how D linemen are getting much better, bigger and powerful. Okay. Then they talk about the weapons for May to throw to. I mean, I did not know this number, but none of the receivers top 700 yards. Yikes. And yeah, those are kind of the 3 stars of the offense. Well, outside of, I guess, running back, we're not counting running back here, but Henry was the number 1 option at tight end. Pop Douglas and Kayshon Boutte, who kind of came on late, but I feel like he is shown as a guy that Drake may trust, should be part of the main wide receiver group next year. Obviously, they need to upgrade the wide receiver group, but Pop Douglas and Kayshon Boutte seem like guys that need to be on the field. We'll see what Vrabel and I guess his coaching staff, once they're implemented, what they can do for Jalen Pogue. I'm not ready to give up on Pogue. I know a bunch of Patriots fans are like done with him. I'm not. I would give him next year. Now with this new system, see if it kind of fits better with him. See if he can get over some of the drop issues or whatever. Like I think Pogue will be fine. So he said he plans to implement an aggressive but not reckless style. Like that. I feel like this past season there were times where fans are screaming out for creativity, pushing the ball downfield, that kind of stuff. Seems like Vrabel's all about that, just not reckless. Because then you get reckless, you get turnovers. So, okay. See, scheme, style, tempo, cadence, all that. Okay. All right, offensive coordinators. Because now with him as the coach, this is now the biggest question. Who's going to be the OC so that when May either takes off, levels off, or gets worse, we'll know who to point the finger at. And they're talking about some leading candidates. I know Josh McDaniels is a name that obviously with the Patriots ties, Vrabel has Patriots ties. He's like the name that everybody's been throwing out there. But I've also been hearing about some other names that are out there as well who could potentially be in line for an OC job. Nick Caley was one. I think even when Mayo was hired, Nick Caley was a guy that some people thought could have gotten the head coaching job, but he's been around the Rams for the past few years. So obviously you bring him in, he would have some of that Sean McVay influence that he'd bring to this offense. And we know when you're talking about today's modernized offenses, it's either McVay, Shanahan, disciples, even though I think the two of them under the same coaching tree. To be honest with you, at this point, coaching trees, I don't know. They're all whatever. But usually for the good offenses, it seems like people are trying to get guys from those two. So Kaylee would fit that. Josh McCown is with the Vikings right now. He's the Vikings quarterback coach. So you're getting it's O'Connell. I think O'Connell's another guy that, you know, offensively grades pretty well. Tim Kelly, which I think he was in Tennessee before. From all I've heard about Tim Kelly, that one seems like a no for me. Tommy Reese, I think, because Vrabel was in Cleveland this past year, where they said Vrabel learned a lot about like analytics and all that kind of stuff. Reese was there, I think, as a tight end coach, so there's a link there as well. Charles London, I'm not really sure who that is. I think it does explain it. McDaniels, Kelly, McCown. All right, Kelly and London. Oh, okay, so they both worked with Vrabel in Tennessee. Kelly's now a tight ends coach of the Giants. London, pass game coordinator that season. Okay. I will say, looking at these names, I'm kind of feeling Josh McCown right now. The fact that he is the quarterback's coach, look at the year that Sam Darnold's had. He also has ties to Drake May. Drake May's close with McCown's sons. I feel like that's got to be number one on the list. I would say go get him. Because you look at the Vikings offense, like there are games where Darnold's been putting up great numbers. You know, there's talks of Darnold getting MVP votes, all this kind of stuff. So it seems like McCown would be a good guy to bring in for Drake May. According to Mike Vrabel, he's going to set up Drake May by putting the right pieces around him. It seems like McCown would be that guy. Now, Josh McDaniels, maybe Josh McDaniels can be part of the staff as well. Because one, McDaniels is a guy who maybe you make him like your quarterback coach or something, even though McCown has experience with that. But if you want to just split the job, you know, two minds greater than one, maybe that helps May even more. And plus, if McCown starts becoming a hot name in the coaching circles, you have McDaniels to fall back on. Because the way people have talked about Josh McDaniels, looking at, you know, the failure in Denver, the disaster with the Raiders, the almost coach of the Colts and pulling out last minute, let's be honest. Are any teams probably going to be clamoring to hire Josh McDaniels to be coach? No. So that's where you have McCown, who's a hot new name, give him the new title. You know, he establishes himself. If he moves on, great. That probably shows you're doing something right in New England. And then you fall back with Josh McDaniels and you just keep the wheels moving. So if I'm going to rate him, McCown is my choice out of this group that, you know, Boston.com put out there. There could be other names as well, but I'm for Josh McCown. That's all I'm going to say. Let's see. So Vrabel's look at that. Looking for efficiency, versatility, and creativity in the offense. Love each one of those bullet points. Because the creativity, I think, was lacking early in the year. We saw a little bit of it later in the year with the Patriots. Versatility, I feel like the offense was, for the most part, yeah. Efficiency, no. I mean, you don't win only 4 games with an efficient offense. So with all 3 of those points, like there's room to grow. So we'll see. Because I think Vrabel also said, or thought is, like Vrabel's going to go through like an extensive process in trying to find the right staff. So once again, I'm putting it in order. So if somebody watches this and knows Vrabel or somebody in the Patriots, let them know. Go for Josh McCown first. That's all I'm saying. Let's see. Someone protecting the middle of the pocket, which obviously speaks to the offensive line. I think David Andrews is a free agent, or I don't know. David Andrews, I think because of injuries and stuff, there's some wonder about whether or not he'll retire or whatever. Can the Patriots convince him to come back another year or whatever? But yeah, outside of center, every other spot on the offensive line. Well, I guess on Wenu, I guess depending on where they decide to put him, because he's bounced from tackle to guard. I feel like people think he's a better guard. So if let's say he's guard, then the two tackle spots, the other guard spot, definitely need to be improved, and possibly center, depending on what David Andrews does. But that's all they had from the press conference. That's all I got for you. But yeah, so let me know, what do you think about the hire? Like I said, for me, I like it. Um, get that out of the way there. There we go. For me, I like the hire. I'm a fan of it. Not saying I was a fan of firing Mayo, but they moved on from him. As Kraft said, it was all on him. I fully believe Robert Kraft, and I have no reason to not. I feel like his stature among some Patriots fans is not that great right now, but I feel like Robert Kraft was being stand up with it. Like, he wanted Mayo to succeed, but through the course of the year, realized Mayo wasn't ready for the head coaching job. That's not to say he was terrible at it, just that for where this team is, for the market and everything, this time, Mayo's not the right guy right now. So uh, I guess we'll see if Mayo, lands anywhere else. Obviously, want the best for him and everything. But we're now into the Mike Vrabel era for the New England Patriots. That doesn't mean they're going to win like 11, 12 games next year. Like, let's temper that. We'll see what they do in free agency and everything like that. But I think right now, you'd have to say the Patriots are in a better position today than they were last week. Like whenever the season ended, they're in a better position now than they were then. So obviously, when Vrabel starts making decisions on the coaching staff, I'll come back with uh, more of my thoughts on the Patriots. But that's all I got for you in this one. So once again, let me know what you think about the hire down in the comments, and who would you like to see for offensive coordinator? Since Vrabel's a defensive guy, the defensive coordinator isn't that big of a deal, because whoever he brings in will just be basically an extension of him. So yeah, let me know who you would like to see down below, or who you would not like to see. I think Titans fans, like if any of you watch this, let me know about who's it, Tim Kelly and the London guy, since they both were part of Tennessee operation a few years ago. Let me know how that went with them, and whether or not we should want them in New England. So, yeah. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. Obviously, before I do go, want to say, shout out to all those out in California fighting the wildfires and everything like that. Obviously, want them all to be safe, continue their efforts, and yeah, it's sad to see all that kind of destruction going on, but you definitely have to thank those who volunteered, as well as those who, as part of their job, kind of going in there and battling all that. So yes, hopefully they're all safe and are able to do their job. So that's all I got for you. So enjoy the rest of your evening, your night, whenever you're watching this. Enjoy your day. Make sure you come back to my channel, this channel right here, at 8 o'clock for uh, Passion and Precision podcast. I'll be over there with Integrity Sports Network doing that show. So make sure you come back for that. Yeah. So be safe. God bless. I'll catch you later on. All right. Bye.